Hello and welcome to Traditional Painting the Digital Way. This is where I use digital painting apps to teach traditional painting techniques. In this video, we're going to be discussing the importance of bringing out color in your paintings. And I've called this series, Don't Be Afraid of Color. And I want to show you the brushes that I use if you want to follow along traditionally. I use a flat wash brush, some bristle brushes, say that 3 times fast, some filbert brushes, and some flat brushes and a script brush. And then I also use canvas board, and sometimes I will use stretched canvas, but I like canvas board the best. And I use Grumbacher Academy paints and Liquitex. And most of these color names are the same, but some of them will vary a little bit depending on the brand of your acrylics. So the app that I'm going to be using is Infinite Painter for Android. And I'm loading my photo reference, which is going to be a picture of Wind Mountain, which is next to the Texas-New Mexico state line border. And I just want to show you how you can bring the true color that's actually in the landscapes and bring it out in your pictures. Now, in this picture, we see a lot of blues, we see a lot of tans, and we have the olive green colors. But there's also some purples, and there's some yellows, and some deeper blues, and so I want to show you how to bring these out. And you have to train your eye to sort of see these things when you're out looking at the landscape. And these things will show up even more as the light changes, especially towards the evening and maybe sometimes in the early morning. So here we want to go ahead and paint in the sky. And if I'm following along traditionally, I would use ultramarine blue with a touch of phthalo blue, because that gives it kind of a turquoise blue look. And we want just that touch because that's what New Mexico skies are famous for. And we want to add maybe just a touch of burnt sienna to gray it down just a little bit. And so here I'm just using the paintbrush category and using the filbert brush and some of these brushes to kind of blend the sky. And if you're following along traditionally, you would throw in some white acrylic gesso, and you would make an X-shaped stroke because that sort of blends in your colors and does away with the edges. And so here I'm using, in Infinite Painter, I'm using the blender, the cloudy blender. And you can set your blend setting to any of the brushes that you have in Infinite Painter. So I'm using the cloudy brush. And then I wanted to add a little bit of texture in Infinite Painter just to make sure that the brushes sort of react like an actual canvas. And then here I want to go ahead and add clouds. And when you're adding clouds, don't just use a pure white, because that'll make things look too chalky. Try to add a drop of orange or yellow to your clouds, just to give it sort of an off-white color. And if you're following along traditionally, you would use a touch of cadmium orange or a touch of cadmium red light or even cadmium yellow. And then I want to show you that, yes, the mountain looks pretty gray in this photograph, and even when you're out looking at it, it looks pretty gray, kind of a blue grayish color. But as it changes in the sunlight, there are the deep purple colors in this painting, in this mountain, and you want to bring this out in your painting. So I'm adding just a little touch of purple into this mountain. Now you don't have to make it bright purple or overextend the color purple in it, but you just want a touch of it because it's there. It's in that mixture of colors. So you kind of want to bring it out so the viewer can see this in your painting. And so I'm adding a little bit of a darker purple to make the canyons and all the crevasses that are on the side of the mountain there. And so I'm using I'm making like a little zigzag lines, basically. Kind of, you don't want to make straight lines because they're not. These canyons, they're crooked, and they're caused by wind and water erosion from years and years. So you want to kind of keep those jagged looking and kind of in a Z shape. So that's what I'm doing here. And if you're following along traditionally, you would smudge it with your finger or with a paper towel or something. And I just want to keep these sort of jagged like. And I'm adding a little bit of the highlight side on the mountain here, and this is where the sunlight catches the rocks that are sticking out. And again, you don't want to add a pure white here. That might make it look like snow, and it's definitely not snow. It's actually quite hot where this mountain is. So you would go ahead and just add some white, off-white again, with maybe a touch of cadmium orange or pink, and just bring out the pinks, the subtle pinks and the subtle oranges in your highlights, because those colors, as I said, those colors are there, but you have to bring them out. You might have to bring them just a little bit brighter than the eye would see so that the viewer can see these in your painting. And that's what I mean by don't be afraid of color. Don't be afraid of these colors. They're there. They're in the landscape, the way that the light hits it. Sometimes it will look exactly like that. So just don't be afraid to bring them out. Go ahead and bring these colors out. And I'm adding a little bit of oranges there and smudging it in with the Infinite Painter brushes. And I'm just trying to get the look of all the canyons and the crevices and all the things that are there on this mountain. And it's actually an old extinct volcano. It's got lots of volcanic rock on it. So that gives it that pointy look. And then here, the lower mountains that are next to it are kind of a beige color that you want to be a little bit more subtle with. You don't want a bright yellow here. So you're using yellow ochre and a touch of white acrylic gesso, and maybe throw in some dioxazine purple. If you're following along traditionally with your regular acrylic paints, and you just kind of want to smooth these out and blend them together, but don't make it all one color. Again, you want to bring out the purple shadows that are out there, because those are shadows, and there are also some greasewood bushes and things like that way out in the distance. And so you want to bring out those colors. You want to bring out the purple. Let the purple come out. Don't smother it. Let it come out a little bit. And also you may throw in a little bit of some blues and some darker beige colors. Throw in some burnt sienna if you're following along traditionally, and that would just be kind of a more reddish brown. Like I said, don't be afraid to let these colors out in your painting. You want to bring them out a little bit because they're there. They're in the landscape, and they are revealed when the sun changes. So you want to go ahead and bring those out. And then here I'm starting the trees, and that's probably a bunch of creek willows there, the darker line of trees. And not that there's a permanent creek there, but when it rains, it causes arroyos to form, and so then the water will run down those. That's why we have flash flooding in the Southwest. You have to be careful because you may not think there's any water, but if there's a big rainstorm further up, then the water will come down these arroyos, and creek willows grow along there. And so I'm adding a darker green there, probably hooker's green with some dioxazine purple if you're following along traditionally, and throw in some burnt umber, maybe some burnt sienna, a little bit of yellow ochre to get these colors. And then the lighter shades of the green, you will add white acrylic gesso. So you just want some different shades of green. And you want to go ahead and throw in a little bit of purple, dioxazine purple, for the shadows, the shadow color, to bring it out and show that there's shadows underneath all these greasewood bushes, because there's a lot of greasewood bushes out there. And they're kind of an olive green color as well. And you'll be able to see them more when I get to the foreground of the painting. But here I'm just kind of smudging all these colors together. But again, I'm not killing all the color and making it one monotone. We want to show these colors. We're blending them together. And so I'm just trying to bring those out and make sure that the viewer can see them. And then here I'm adding a little bit more of purple in the background, again, in the distant mountains, and working a little bit on the shape. So this is the end of part 1 of my Don't Be Afraid of Color series. And in part 2, we're going to work more on the foreground and the bushes in the front, and all the grass that we want to put in. So if you want to see that, hit the subscribe button. And thanks everybody for watching. Thank you so much for your support. If you have any questions, just leave them in the comments down below. And I will catch you later.